Heather Cooan, and let's invite Heather to join us. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Welcome to our live with Heather Cooan redo.
Redo.
How do I? Yes, I found the button, Heather. Here we come. So as you come in, give me a hello. Give me a how you doing? What are you doing today? As we have Heather join the room, leave me a comment. I see. Hey, let's see who we got here.
You got me
Lynn,
for the first time in a while.
Julie. Heather, did you get my invite on Instagram?
Oh.
All right. Julie, how are you, Julie? Nice to have you join us. Wendy, what's up, Wendy? And Barb in Alberta, Canada. Hello, hello. All right. Love it. All right, we'll just get these technical little difficulties. So as you guys are trickling in, thank you for jumping on with us as we get this started. Today we are talking nutrition therapy with Heather Cooan. And hopefully you have listened to her episode because not episodes because she's so amazing. We had to have 3. Okay, we could not just fit it into one.
I'm just
Oh
long-winded.
yes, give her some hearts. And she come on up here. Do you need me to send you the link again, Heather?
Yes.
Oh yes, give her some hearts.
Okay, mute this guy.
All right, I see you in the crowd. Here she comes, here she comes. Yes, there she is. Hello, hello, Heather.
Hold on, let me get this muted so we don't have echoes.
Okay.
I thought it was muted.
All right.
I think
You
we're
might
good.
have to mute the computer, like just on your speaker. So that way, so we are
Can you still hear me though?
broadcasting. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep, I can hear. I can hear you. Yep.
For some reason I thought StreamYard streamed into Infusion or into Instagram.
No, not yet. Unfortunately, not yet. But
Okay.
hopefully one day soon. So we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram because the fabulous Heather, she has to have like a massive audience because she deserves it. And we are
I need to
here
show up
for
though, right?
No
So
worries,
anybody
no
who came to
worries.
the last live last week, I'm so sorry. Daylight
No.
savings. I live in Arizona and we don't do daylight savings, and stuff moved around on my calendar. So if you're back, thank you so much for giving me a second shot. I'm happy to answer questions for you guys.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So start dropping your questions for Heather in the comments and we will get this party started. So, Heather, have you got an outpouring since your debut on the podcast? I mean, we've
I
had a
have.
lot of interest.
Yeah, I absolutely have. I had a whole bunch of new client consults booked. I had a few ladies sign up, And I am excited to help some of these women hopefully not itch and be inflamed anymore. I wouldn't wish LS on my worst enemy. And I'm just so excited to share anything and everything that I can to everyone. And so even if you're not looking for like a practitioner to work with directly, I'm really trying to get as much free information out there as possible. So I love the opportunity to share with your audience. Thank you so much for having me, Kathy.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one of our number one fans, Jacqueline, is in the chat. She is actually, good luck, Jacqueline. Jacqueline's about to go in for a procedure for her jaw, and she is a trooper to come in here, show support. She's waiting in the waiting room. So everybody send her some positive vibes, send her some love, and just all around good, healthy thoughts, because she's going to be in for it in a little bit. And we want her to just get better. So we have our first question. Love it. Hi, Nadia. Nadia asked, how do, she said hi. She didn't get to watch the previous videos, but she's interested to get an overview of what foods are helpful. Are you specifically talking about for LS or inflammation, autoimmune? Because I know there's a little bit of a difference, or is it the same, Heather?
It's actually going to be different per body. So,
okay, there you go.
Nita, I'm so sorry I can't give you a super direct answer on this one. It's really going to depend on your specific body and what it is that you're dealing with. So generally speaking, there are some categories of foods that can be difficult for people who have autoimmunity, specifically LS. Two big ones for LS, actually we're going to talk about three. Oxalates, which everyone hears about. These are going to be heavily in foods that have a lot of vitamin C, foods that have spinach, almonds, chocolate, coffee, I think is in there too. And so if you have a hard time breaking down oxalates, you might experience symptoms of painful intercourse. So vulvodynia is actually the body of research where this first was discovered in terms of oxalates being an issue. Oxalates have not been in the literature directly tied to LS, but they are tied to vulvodynia, and that is essentially painful penetration. Mystery, no cause, nobody understands why. But it often accompanies LS, and sometimes that's usually an oxalate issue. Also, if you have painful bowel movements in that they feel like you're passing shards of glass, that can also be an oxalate buildup. And then if you have any kind of stones, kidney stones, are typically because of an oxalate, an inability to break down oxalates. So I would look up high oxalate foods if you have any of those types of symptoms and start slowing down on those guys. Another big category of foods that can be problematic are high histamine foods. Histamine is like, we know about Benadryl, right, as an antihistamine. So histamine is something that naturally builds up in your system. And
I think your mic went down.
It went down? Is it me? Right here? Is that better?
Much better. There you go.
Okay,
now we can hear
cool.
you.
Got it. I must have hit it. So histamine foods, shellfish are histamine high. Nuts can be histamine high. That's all that's coming to mind right now. But look up a list. Essentially, if you experience a lot of itching with your LS at night and Benadryl helps, you probably have a histamine buildup. So I would slow down on histamine foods and then focus on exercising and sweating and detoxification type activities. So that's one. Or that's two. And then the other one is blood sugar. So sugar is a problem for a lot of women, especially folks who are dealing with autoimmunity and LS. So if things like ketogenic diets, intermittent fasting, skipping meals, any of that stuff helps, you probably have a blood sugar dysregulation issue. The thing with high sugar and even high carbohydrate foods, because sugar is sugar as far as your body is concerned, is that they kick up insulin. So you're only able to have 4 teaspoons of sugar in your bloodstream at one time. That's 4 grams. And so anything over that, your pancreas produces a hormone called insulin, which basically shuttles that sugar into your liver and your muscles first, and then once those storage areas are full, it's packed on your body as adipose tissue, body fat. And so the thing with insulin, if it's chronically elevated, that is highly inflammatory on the body. And so that's why the ketogenic diet and intermittent fasting and those types of things help a lot of women with LS. So experiment with those things. If you have bad reactions to vitamin C, probably oxalates. So that's what I can give you in terms of generalities. Otherwise, it's body dependent. It really is.
Yeah, that's what you got to do. That either get the test and work with Heather, consult with her, get in there. I'm telling you, get
I
in
would
there,
love to have you.
or go
Yeah,
the
I would love
long
to
way, or go the
and do
long
it
way,
yourself.
and you gotta track,
Trial
track,
and error.
and track. And if you need somebody, if you find histamines is something that is a trigger for you, there's a really good account in Sickness and in Wellness. She shares low histamine um, recipes and things like that. And she's just a joy. And she has LS. She will actually be on the podcast in the near future. So definitely want to go and follow her. And
What's the name of
Nadia
that account
says,
again?
in sickness and in wellness.
In Sickness and in Wellness. I'll have to connect with her. That's wonderful.
Yeah,
Great resource.
Chris. Yep, she's amazing. She's so nice. And Nadia has a follow up. She says, "What are your thoughts with protein intake, and also any benefits on taking black seed oil?"
Hmm. So I can't really speak on black seed oil. I haven't done enough research on that particular supplement. But as far as protein is concerned, that's what all of your everything is made of. So I would definitely make sure that you're getting enough protein. I find oftentimes that women specifically don't get enough protein. If you're coming from a history of restricted eating or low calorie or low fat, that could actually be contributing to some of your issues because fat is what you build hormones and neurotransmitters out of. And then just about everything else in your body is either made up of protein or fat. So make sure that you're getting enough. And it doesn't really matter where it comes from. Animal protein is going to be the most bioavailable, which means it breaks down the easiest in your digestive system and you can assimilate all of those nutrients easier. But plant protein is fine. I would steer clear of soy protein simply because it can add excess estrogens, and we already live in a high estrogenic environment. So I'd be careful there. And then when it comes to dairy proteins, you're going to have to just trial and error. Dairy tends to be very problematic for a lot of folks. So just see how you do. Try it without it for a couple of weeks and see if things improve. Add it back in, see if things get worse. You can identify whether or not dairy is an issue for you. So things like whey protein powders and those can be tough on folks.
Awesome. And if you guys need a symptom tracker, I have one available. You can download. It is a
Cool.
Google Doc, and you can customize it. It's at lssupport.net/symptom tracker. All right. So thank you, Nida. And we have a question from Christy. She says, once I identify the triggers in my diet, do I need to eliminate them 100% forever? Or is it okay to indulge from time to time, for example, at special occasions?
Yeah, I get this question all the time. The biggest thing that my clients come to me with is a fear that I'm going to take away all their favorite foods and they're never going to be able to have them ever again. And that doesn't have to be the case, but it's not simple. So if you're familiar with me, then you know that I work off of something called the three-legged stool approach to autoimmunity, where one leg is genes. There are definitely genetic markers that can predispose you to be sensitive to some of the triggers that we talk about. Then there's the gut, and gut health is very, very important. A lot of folks talk about leaky gut, which can be part of the problem, where the mucosal lining of your intestine actually becomes compromised and what you're eating leaks out into your bloodstream. And what is going on?
I don't know. You sound like you're in a closet now.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Does it help at all to push it next to my face?
No.
No?
Maybe move it down a little bit.
Down here? Better?
That's about
Worse?
it. Yes. Yes. No. Better.
Okay,
Keep
don't
it
move,
right there.
Mike.
Oh,
Don't move.
there. When you move forward for some reason, then it's a. But when you move back, I don't know. It's weird.
So which direction when I move is good?
Now you're perfect. Right there.
So don't move.
Don't move.
Okay, I would try not to move.
Yeah.
Oh, where was I?
Oh, sorry.
Gut.
Leaky gut.
So,
I think.
so that's when the gut lining becomes compromised, and what you eat leaks out into your bloodstream and activates your immune system. So leaky gut is definitely part of the gut puzzle, but it doesn't have to be leaky gut. It can be as simple as not enough hydrochloric acid, and so you're not breaking down your food correctly, which means the bacteria that live in your intestines are having to digest your food for you, which can lead to all kinds of bacterial imbalances. It could also be a parasite, a bacterial infection, a buildup of candida or a fungal overgrowth. There's a lot of things that can happen in the gut, but there's some sort of gut disruption typically at play with autoimmunity and with LS. And then you have the genes. And then the biggest thing that you have control over is the triggers. And there are 6 major categories of triggers that I talk about. And so that's really what needs to be figured out first. So if you have leaky gut, it's typical that you're going to react to just about everything that you eat on a regular basis. And that becomes a very difficult trial and error type puzzle to solve. And so that's why I lead with functional testing. I use something called the MRT, or the mediated release test. And that measures any kind of mediator that is released by the immune system. And then we can look for patterns. So we can identify, is it maybe a histamine issue? Is it a nightshade issue? Is it an oxalate issue? What's going on? In addition to specific foods that you might be reacting to. If it is a situation where the test comes back and there's a million of them, then that typically indicates leaky gut. And so in that case, we would need to eliminate as much as we could without starving you to death for a small period of time. And then we do a challenge in terms of reintroducing one food at a time to see how you react and whether or not you have symptoms. So the elimination period needs to be typically 30 days. At least. So it's usually 30 to 90 days, sometimes 6 months if the situation is really bad. It's just going to depend on where you're at in terms of the progression of your disease and how many things you are reacting to. So that's typically why I lead with testing. But you can absolutely follow something like the autoimmune protocol and eliminate most of the known foods that cause reactions,
You're
like
breaking up.
nightshades.
Say that again about the autoimmune. Your audio
So
broke
if you
up.
want to troubleshoot on your own, I would recommend the autoimmune protocol. That's going to let you eliminate all of the foods that are known to be reactive to people. And then you can reintroduce them challenge one by one. But I would give yourself at least 30 days just to get it all out of your system. So 2 of the major offenders are gluten and dairy, and their proteins actually break down into opioids in the gut. So you kind of have to go through opioid withdrawal to get off of these things. That's why cravings for cakes and cookies and ice cream and cheese are so strong, is because they're literally kind of feel like a drug in your system with the opioids. So the half-life of those are about 30 days. So it takes about that long to get them completely out of your system to see results in terms of an elimination diet. I like the testing though, because it's very often that things come back that are not covered in AIP. So for example, I react to pork. Yeah, no bacon for me. And so I'm never going to figure that out if I'm just following an AIP or a manual protocol. So keep a food journal and see if you can identify patterns and go down that route. Otherwise, testing is what I would recommend for sure.
Yeah. And if you do decide to do the AIP, there's another account on Instagram, Angie.alt. She is a AIP coach. She actually has a program where she will walk you through the AIP. You do it in a group because the elimination diets are tough, man. Um, And so she is a coach. She actually lives this, and she has lichen sclerosus, so she knows what it's about. So you definitely want to follow her, get in her program. I think her April program is obviously it started, but her next program starts May 6th, and she's also going to be on the podcast in the
Very cool.
future.
Angie Alt
So
is
thank you.
wonderful. She's
Yes.
wonderful. She and Sarah Ballantyne are two of the heaviest hitting. Um, my husband is
Okay.
visiting. Are some of the heaviest hitting like influencers in the space, and they're very, very good. So she's a wonderful resource.
Absolutely.
And she's also
Absolutely.
an
Love it.
NTP, I believe.
All right. And so the next question we have is from Lou Spencer. And she says, "Hi, do you have any tips on wearing swimsuits that are very tight, have synthetic materials, and tend to contribute to flares?"
Bathing suits. So the so there's a couple of different ways. One, you can wear shorts that are a little bit more loose fitting. Sometimes it's the elastic that is bothering folks, so you can try that instead of
Mm-hmm.
a traditional bathing suit. And if you're out there having fun, it shouldn't really matter what you're wearing. So just own it, roll with it.
Yep.
The other is to use a barrier substance to apply on the skin that will help with the chlorine and the chemicals that are in if you're doing a pool, as well as kind of something in between yourself and the material. A little bit controversial, but I always used Vaseline. I know that there are a lot of women who are concerned because it's a petroleum-based product. Just know that the petroleum concerns usually come with contaminants, and our FDA on this particular topic has actually got their stuff together. And so the petroleum products that are sold in the US are typically safe. At least that's what all of the paperwork and the literature that I've looked at states. But your body, your choice. So make sure that you're comfortable using that on such a sensitive area. If
Mm-hmm.
not, anything that's a little bit thicker or a little bit kind of an oil-based substance should help in terms of providing a barrier protection for you.
Yeah. And then as soon as you are out of the water and done, change into dry clothes, like as
Yes,
soon
yes.
as you can. Do not
Yep.
linger in those wet clothes, so that way you get out of them and that irritation. And then reapply your barrier cream after you get out of the water. Reapply it. So awesome. And Lori, yes, she shares her concern. She says she's scared of getting cancer from this LS. Heather,
Yeah.
as a vulvar cancer survivor, um, you've been down that road. Any words for Lori?
Yeah. So, few things on the cancer thing. I get this a lot, and I interface with a lot of women in the Facebook forums for LS that are very concerned about cancer. Often this comes up with brand new diagnoses.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my best advice is one, make sure that you're following up with your regular check-ins with your doctor and you're being monitored. If you're the type that shies away from conventional medicine, make sure you are taking photos of yourself on a regular basis. Basically, someone, whether it's you or your MD, need to be tracking the changes in the tissue on an ongoing basis. That's super, super important. That way, if it does turn, you can catch it early. Um,
Yes.
what is it? 90%. 90% of the vulvar cancer cases are a simple surgery to remove the affected tissue, and that's it. Like you're done. You're good. No problem. It is rare, but it does happen where these cases become advanced and we run into bigger issues. Um, but typically they're taken care of with just a quick surgery. No big deal. Also keep in mind about 5%. I think it's like 4 to 6%. I'm seeing a difference in data in the literature that I'm reading actually progress into cancer. The majority of
Yes.
those cases are like me. We're long-standing cases that have gone untreated for a long time. It is not unheard of, however, to get cancer anyway, despite religious use of the topical steroids that are prescribed. I see this a lot in my vulvar cancer support groups. A lot of women are in that boat. So you're not off the hook 100% if you're following all of the recommendations from your MD. This is why it's so important for you to do both. I'm not for or against steroids. That's a personal choice. I can't tell you what to do or what not to do based on your doctor's recommendations. But what I can tell you is it's very important to also take care of the rest of your terrain. Because if you think about it, applying a topical steroid to an area that your immune system is attacking doesn't really stop the attack on the body, right? It just kind of puts a Band-Aid on the symptoms and makes life a little bit more bearable for you. Oftentimes, my clients come to me with lichen sclerosus, and they've been able to control things with clobetasol or whichever topical they've been put on for a while, and then it eventually breaks through and they're unable to control it in the same way. And once they start adding in diet and lifestyle change and taking better care of themselves in a way that's appropriate for their specific situation, that's when their cases seem to calm down. So be very careful about relying on just the steroid. If you're in a place now where your LS is controlled by just those meds, oh man, girl, hallelujah. I'm so happy for you. But definitely use this time where you feel good to get on the ball in terms of nutrition and lifestyle. Like, it's really important to do both. And that's what's going to control that inflammation and prevent things from progressing towards cancer. It's both. It's the terrain and the issue.
Absolutely. And then possibly doing the getting the sister autoimmune diseases that like to pop up every once in a while, those additional ones that seem to come in multiples. So love that. Yes.
That's a great point, Kathy. So they tend to run in packs because autoimmunity is an issue with the immune system. So it's really your genetic makeup that controls where it pops up. So whether it affects your vulva or your thyroid or your gut, it's going to depend on your genetic makeup. But really, everything boils down to an issue with the immune system. And so it's really important to figure out why the immune system has gone bonkers and get it back into balance. Because otherwise, every 10 years or so, and with my clients often sooner than that, you'll see another autoimmune diagnosis pop up.
Yeah, love that. And Alicia, thank you for supporting Alicia. She says, love this so much, so true in my life. So love that. Christy has a follow-up question. She says, when you say lifestyle, what factors specifically do you mean?
Yeah.
I highly suggest you listen, if you haven't yet, listening to Heather's episode on nutrition therapy. If you go to lssupport.net/nutrition therapy, she goes completely like in depth. Like, it's almost an hour that she lays all of this out for you. And it's amazing. So definitely go and do that, because these are just like cliff notes. If you want the real deal, go hit her up in that episode. And then, hit her up on her website. So just had to give you a little plug there.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'd love to have you guys, but I also know that it's tough to work with a practitioner and sometimes the budget doesn't allow. So I'm so excited to let you guys in on my secrets. All right. So it all goes back to that stool. Okay. So the triggers, there are 6 major buckets of triggers, and I do have a worksheet for you guys. It's available at Heather Cooan, COOAN.com/LS podcast. So heathercoan.com/LS podcast. I am asking you to sign up for my email list when you go there, but in return, I will send you a worksheet that has all of these 6 buckets and the stool laid out so that you can have it handy as kind of a cheat sheet, because this is what I'm troubleshooting with my clients. I'm going through each of these 6 buckets to see if we can figure out if these buckets are your triggers, and then dig into each one and figure out how to take the stress off the body to bring it back in balance. So these 6 buckets are Food sensitivities, which we've already kind of covered in depth. So there's one, and that is the one that most people tend to latch onto. And usually there's some sort of food issue involved, but not always. Another big bucket is environmental toxins and heavy metals. So oftentimes I find that women with autoimmunity, and specifically with LS, have trouble with some of their personal care products or cleaning products or just environmental sensitivities of some kind. So definitely go through your bathroom, right? All of those things that you put on your skin, on your hair, on your nails, on your body, and make sure those things don't have a lot of the chemicals that can cause us to go a little bit bonkers in terms of the immune system. Two great resources for this: the Environmental Working Group's website. Their information can be a little bit technical and difficult to navigate. So there's another app that you can download for free. I know it's on Android. I don't know about Apple. It's called Think Dirty, and it actually has a scanner. So it'll let you scan each of the barcodes on your personal care products, and it will let you know what their grade is in terms of cleanliness. And it will actually break down the chemicals that are in those products and let you know why they are potentially harmful to you, whether they're endocrine disruptors and they mess with your hormones, whether they're carcinogens and they can add up to be bad news in the future, whatever it is. Also in that bucket is heavy metals. So if you are drinking out of aluminum cans, if you have had amalgam fillings as a child, all of those things if you eat a lot of fish, a lot of ocean fish, heavy metals can be a problem. These are things that we can test for in functional testing. Another big thing is plastic in that bucket. So make sure that you are not heating plastic if you're eating food out of it. So if you use Tupperware, put it on a plate and microwave it. Don't ever put plastic in the microwave. And if at all possible, you need to try and drink out of glass, stainless steel, ceramic, those kinds of things. The reason is because plastic contains something called a xenoestrogen, and that actually can build up. So it's a toxin, but it also leads to hormone imbalance, which is another bucket. So a lot of women tell me, I don't think it's autoimmune. I think it's hormone related, because I got a lot of women who have had hysterectomies, and then they notice that they've had LS crop up after the hysterectomy or after childbirth. And it's typically because hysterectomy, that's surgical menopause. That's going to throw your emotions everywhere because your hormones are crazy now. And it takes a little while to stabilize coming off of that. So where am I going? Hormone imbalance is another big bucket. All right, another one, nutritional deficiencies. So nutritional deficiency that I always recommend anyone with lichen sclerosus or autoimmunity get checked: vitamin D. Go to your doc and get your vitamin D levels checked. This is really, really important because vitamin D is actually what tells the immune system, this tissue is me, don't attack me, or that tissue is not me, please attack it. So it controls self-differentiation in the immune system. So vitamin D is really, really important. You want to make sure you're over 50 on the test. So when you go to your doctor, if he tests you low, make sure you're on him to keep testing you until you get those numbers up. Oftentimes medical doctors will test you once and then say, take like 50,000 a week or whatever it is, and then they don't ever test you again. It's really important to keep up with that and make sure that it's coming up. If you have gut issues, it can be difficult to bring that up. So I definitely recommend a liquid vitamin D when you do get it tested and your doctor gives you how much he would like you to take to get those levels up. So nutritional deficiencies are a big deal. Infections and parasites are another big bucket. So if you have any kind of weird things living in your gut where you shouldn't, that can be a stressor on the body and it can lead to immune dysfunction. Same thing with infections like Lyme disease, Epstein-Barr disease, HPV is a big one that comes up with my vulvar cancer patients. A lot of these infections, we just live with them, right? Maybe we feel a little bit run down or we've got some weird things happening, but oftentimes we don't connect the dots back to the infection. And then the last bucket is the systemic inflammation, which we talked about a little bit. The biggest contributor is oftentimes blood sugar dysregulation, because that insulin is too high and it's causing systemic inflammation. But it can be caused by anything. Mental and emotional stress can cause gut issues, which can lead to systemic inflammation. Trauma, same deal. So there are a lot of things in that bucket. So in terms of how do I figure out where I'm going, it's really going to depend on these buckets in terms of diet and lifestyle changes. We got to identify the stressors and the triggers first, and then the diet and lifestyle changes will follow in terms of rectifying and whatever those imbalances are in those areas. It's a long answer, but hopefully I got there for you.
Yeah, so definitely go to heathercoan.com/ls podcast and download that sheet and test yourself, see what's up, and then schedule your consultation with Heather. Go over the results and see what she says. So
And I got to tell
Wendy,
you, Kathy,
what's up?
I got to tell you, I've had so many women reach out to me and be like, I couldn't figure out what my triggers were. And then when I heard your 6 buckets, I immediately zoned in on hormone imbalance because I had a
There you go.
hysterectomy. Or I immediately thought, you know what? I interface with all these chemicals on a regular basis. Maybe that's it. And so
Yeah,
I am so excited to hear the light bulbs of women kind of connecting the dots in terms of troubleshooting their own systems. It's been
love
wonderful.
that. Love that. So Wendy asked, for testing to be accurate, should it be done while in a flare, or would it still be beneficial if you are in remission?
Mhm.
Good question,
Yeah.
Wendy.
So if you are in remission, it's going to depend on how you got there. So if you're in remission because of pharmaceutical interventions, i.e. clobetasol or whatever topical you're using, then it's very possible that the test is still going to pick up whatever dysfunction is happening under the hood. Because for my specific body, I did use a steroid for about 2 weeks in between diagnosis of LS and vulvar cancer and cancer surgery. And it put everything basically in remission until I went into surgery. I haven't used it since because I know that I need to listen to my body. So I know that if I start to get a tingle, maybe I'm too heavy on sugar, maybe I'm too heavy on whatever else is going on in my body because I've got a list of things that I've noticed affect me. Um, so it's going to depend on how you got there. So the test will still be accurate in terms of what's out of balance if you are using pharmaceuticals, because it's likely the case that whatever is attacking your system is still there. If you're in remission because of diet and lifestyle change, it may or may not be picked up. It's going to depend on the level of healing in terms of where you're at. So if you haven't had a flare in, I want to say like 12 to 18 months, then testing may not be able to pick it up for you. But if you are still having flares within that time, then you still have an active case. And so, yeah, the testing will absolutely be accurate.
Love that. Thank you, Wendy. We have a question from Amy. She says she's using dilators and having success. Yay! But sex is still painful. Thoughts on suppositories and CBD, the CBD type?
CBD suppositories for sex, that's interesting. I use them
Mm.
actually for menstrual cramps. So, because of the way they relax the muscles in the lower quadrant of your body, I don't see why that wouldn't be something to test. I would definitely try that. Um, I actually use suppositories that have both CBD and THC. I live in Arizona, so we are a recreational
Mm.
and medical state, so we got both now. Um, and those like relax all the muscles in that area, but I still have feeling in the area. So that might actually be a great thing to experiment with in terms of painful intercourse. I love that idea. I hadn't thought of that. Now I'm going to start recommending it to my clients and see if it helps. That's great.
Yeah.
Um, Otherwise, I would continue to practice with your dilators. That's wonderful. But then
Yes.
also like get a vibrator and have fun
Mm-hmm.
by yourself. Make sure you're aroused and make sure you go through all of the processes that you know, get your body ready to receive, and then try that vibrator.
Yes.
Because it's a little bit different in terms of using a dilator to stretch the area versus actually priming the area to receive penetration and be ready for that kind of activity. So I would definitely do both. Masturbation is good. Like, do it. It's good for you. It releases oxytocin. It's good for our mental health. It's good for our skin. It's good for everything. So definitely, I
That's
would
why I'm
recommend
glowing.
that.
No.
Yeah, it gives you that glow, right? You got to get jiggy with it, right? And then,
And
all
it's
right. So
good
what
to
else?
bring blood flow down into that area,
That's right.
into those muscles, because a lot of the time we're so tight that we restrict the blood flow to those muscles, and that's another reason why you may be having pain.
Yes.
I definitely, if you haven't followed the Lost Labia Chronicles, go and follow her. That's Jacqueline, because she is amazing. She went on a 4-week protocol, dilator protocol, written out by Dr. Heather Jeffcoat. It's a book called Sex Without Pain, and Dr. Jeffcoat will be on the podcast as well. Um, and she has now been having pain free sex for 2 months now, going on 2 months for the first time since she started having sex. And she's loving life. So it can be done, and it is a
It absolutely
process.
can.
And give yourself the grace, and to don't put a timeline on yourself, don't put that pressure. But yeah, just work on it and follow her, read her blog. She blogs about it, the Lost Labia Chronicles. She's on Instagram and Facebook, and she's awesome. And reach out to her, she will answer all kinds of questions for you. So
That's awesome.
definitely.
The last piece of advice for sexual function is check your mindset for sure.
Mm.
I find that even if the body is primed and ready, sometimes the mind can sabotage us a little bit because we have that built up kind of fear and anticipation of pain. And so we get tense. And that's why letting yourself go with a lot of masturbation and using toys by yourself can help you kind of dust off the cobwebs, if you will, and learn that it doesn't always have to be painful. And that might help you to relax a little bit with your partner. It sounds cheesy, but it made a difference for me.
Yeah. Jacqueline talks about that too. Just giving, she until she was mentally ready, she abstained from sex.
Yep.
And then they went into it very pragmatically, that okay, we're going to treat you as if you were a dildo, not a dildo, but a dilator. And when they started and found that there was no pain, then they just had fun, and it relieved the mental block for
Pressure.
both of them, because her husband would have uh, issues keeping an erection if he thought he was hurting her. So
Yes.
by doing it that way, it relieved the pressure from him and the pressure from her. And like I said, now they're like rabbits, and you can't keep them off each
Yep,
other.
absolutely. And if you are dealing with painful intercourse, definitely investigate oxalates. That's a
Mm,
thing for sure in terms of painful intercourse.
awesome. Thank you. Wendy's has a follow up question. She says, "What are your recommendations for those who budget may be an issue? Is there a budget friendly plan of attack for where to start with testing, etc.?"
Sure. This is a tough one because these things are not unfortunately covered by insurance right now. If you have an HSA plan, depending on the plan, sometimes that will cover tests. Depends on how yours works. Um, I am not a licensed practitioner. I fall into the bucket of a consultant or a health coach. And so while I'm certified, I'm not licensed by the state. So I can't bill insurance. I don't deal with TPC codes or any of those things. So I can't give you like a super bill to reimburse your insurance, but your doctor can. So you can always go to your doctor and ask them for the types of testing and see if there's any kind of functional elements to their practice. So they can do that. Or you can check your HSA and see if it will cover any of these things. Otherwise, it's really a lot of troubleshooting on your own. So I have heard this concern loud and clear that I really want to troubleshoot my body with someone like you, but I can't afford it. I am working on a course so that you guys can go through this self-paced. And the idea is that the labs will be an optional add-on. So if you get to a point where you discover, I think maybe oxalates are an issue and I want to do a test to see if oxalates are, because we can test for that. Then you can upsell and get that test, just that one, rather than giving you a big package and all of this time and a big price tag. So give me some time. I'm currently building that, and then keep a close eye on my YouTube channel and my newsletter, my blog, because I'm putting out as much free information as I can on a regular basis to help you troubleshoot on your own. So as of right now, I don't have a discount package, but I'm working on it. Hopefully I can hurry up. One woman show here, so bear with me.
Girlfriend, I feel you. Listen, there's only so many hours in the day, and we still have families and kids, and we got to have some kind of relaxation and sleep. So I feel you.
Yes.
Love that.
Yes.
Love that.
Yeah. But hopefully this worksheet can at least help you narrow things down a little bit, or give you a little bit of a path to start troubleshooting and investigating. Doing
And
it on your own
tracking.
requires a lot of research.
Yeah, use the symptom tracker, you know, customize it. Once you do the sheet that Jacqueline, I'm going to call you, she's on my brain, that Heather had provided for us, once you know where to kind of hone in, then start tracking those things. Use the symptom tracker and maybe hone in on those things and then eliminate them for yourself. And then continue tracking, see if it makes a difference, and then go back and then maybe try the next thing, but try things one at a time. You got to be patient. It's not going to be, I always say you're either going to pay with money or time. So if you don't have the money, you got to give yourself the time to figure these things out, and be patient. So I love that.
Yep.
Awesome.
Absolutely. I do see a question from Shannon. She wants to know how I test.
Oh,
so the kind of testing that I provide is actually a little bit different. So when you go to your doctor and he runs labs for you, what he's doing is he's using a diagnostic tool to find a diagnosis which corresponds to a CP code that he can then use to bill insurance, because that's how our system is built and that's how it works. What I'm using is called a functional lab test. It's actually a research-based test that helps us find markers that are not typically tested in modern medicine in your body that we know from a functional perspective affect the way your body functions. And so the way this works is I actually drop ship the lab kits to your home, and you collect your own samples. And it can be anything from blood, whether it's just like a finger prick and then you put your finger on a card, or sometimes you need to go in and get a vial drawn. It could be stool, it could be urine, it could be saliva, it could be hair. It depends on what we're testing for. But you basically collect your sample at home, package up your sample based on the directions, fill out your financial information for that lab test, and then send it in. And then the lab sends me your results, and I actually work with a doctor who specializes in the functional labs on my end to not only get expert functional interpretation for your lab, but to also get any insights for the plan that we will build together from them and their experience with their patient population in that specific area of function. So that's kind of how the functional labs work through me or through other functional practitioners.
Love that. Love that. Thank you. All right.
Good questions.
So, yeah, these are some amazing questions. We got about 12 minutes left, so make sure you ask your questions for Heather. Now is your chance to get your question answered. Don't pass up. While we're waiting for the next question, I want to let you guys know that you still have time to come and join us at the Lichen Sclerosus Support Virtual Meetup, which is happening this Saturday from 2 to 4 and 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can go to lssupport.net/connect and join the email list there. It's completely private. It's not recorded. It's none of that. You don't even have to turn on your camera if you don't want to. You can just sit back and listen if you feel more comfortable until you feel comfortable to share. But it's really nice to just be able to come and share your story, listen to how other people treat, listen to their symptoms, their story, and just be in a community with other women who get it. Sometimes you can't talk to your friends because they just don't get how serious it is, and they figure, oh, just take a pill, you'll be fine, and it's not. So come and join us, lssupport.net/connect, and get all of the information. So, all right.
Lori, can you clarify what is it exactly that you're looking for more info on?
Yeah, Lori, let us know. All right. So, Heather, what would you say is your one recommendation that all of us as with LS should number one be looking at? I think I
That's a
know
big
what you're
question.
gonna say. I think I
That's a
know
big
what you're gonna
question.
say.
Okay, so with LS, because there is a potential for things to develop into cancer, there are three, probably four. Okay, there's a few lab markers that I would definitely recommend you get tested now with your conventional doctor. There's going to be three nutrients. These are the most cancer protective nutrients. That's vitamin D, which we already talked about, vitamin A, and then also iodine.
Ooh.
Iodine deficiency is implicated in breast cancer, but also all cancers. And these three are
Okay.
the most cancer protective because they're what is used by the body in cellular replication and cellular health. So I would make sure those three nutrients are at good levels. And then I would also test blood sugar markers like A1C and then also CRP. It's called C-reactive protein. C-reactive protein is an inflammation marker, so it'll test for systemic inflammation. So you want to make sure that that
Mm,
is low or within range. And then your A1C is going to give you an average of blood sugar over the last, what is it, 30 to 90 days. And so that's going to tell you where you're at in terms of blood sugar dysregulation. So inflammation, blood sugar dysregulation are very, very common in any kind of autoimmunity, specifically LS. So those are the markers I would definitely start with your conventional doc if you're not sure where to start. And then I would also abide by three nutrition principles that I believe apply to every single body. These are the only three things that apply to every single body. Other than these three, everything is individual. So that's whole
okay.
foods. I think we already know that, right? No more sugar, no more boxed, bagged, packaged, drive through. Try and get rid of all of that. Whole foods. That doesn't mean you have to cook every single meal yourself. There are ways around that, but
Okay.
definitely whole foods. The other is proper preparation. One big area that we didn't really touch on is plant phytochemistry. Some people have a hard time with the defense mechanisms of plants, and that's what causes stress on the body and inflammation. So if you're eating things like beans and grains and you're making them at home, make sure that you're soaking them and sprouting them first before you're baking them
Mm,
into breads or cooking beans into chili or whatever it is that you're making at home. So proper preparation is a big deal. And then the other thing is nutrient density. So I think we intuitively know that a cupcake probably doesn't have a very, very high profile of nutrition in terms of vitamins and minerals, but a piece of salmon with some steamed broccoli or roasted broccoli does. Like that's a nutrition packed meal for us. So
okay.
it's whole foods, nutrient density, proper preparation. Those are the only things that apply to every single body. Beyond that, everything is individual. So those three things and then the lab markers, that's probably where I would start. And then give yourself some grace and give yourself some time to relax and breathe.
Love that. Yeah, stress management.
Mhm.
I remember that was one of your triggers is the environment stress. How is that affecting you? So love that.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
Lori wants to know, how do we contact you? How do we work with you with your services? Um, what do we need to do to get some of this Heather goodness in our own lives?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to have anybody, and whether we decide to work together or not, I'm happy to talk to you. Just go to heathercohen.com, and there should be a link under services, and then you should be able to book a free consultation with me. And so I'll at least give you 30 minutes of my time and we can chat. If I can't give you, if we can't work together, then hopefully I can at least give you a little bit of direction based on your case. So that's where you
Love
find
that.
me. And then I'm everywhere on social media. So just Heather Cohen.
Yes. And definitely listen to that episode because she give you a whole hour of her time and she went in deep, deep, deep. Okay? So, love that. All right, ladies. If I don't see any more questions, we are almost out of time. I appreciate all of you coming and supporting today and asking your questions. Let excuse me, got a little tickle in my throat there. Let me know if you have any questions for us. And make sure you listen to Heather's story on her own journey. It's completely amazing. Um, Natural, she healed herself from vulvar cancer and lichen sclerosis through natural means,
And
and it's.
Hashimoto's.
I'm sorry.
And Hashimoto's.
And Hashimoto's. It's truly, truly amazing. It can be done,
Yep.
but it does take commitment, and you don't want to just do this and then go back to your old ways because you're going to end up right back here, and it's going to be wasted time, wasted money, wasted effort, and what's the point? So
Yeah, that's right.
commit, and do the thing. All
Yeah, this is
right.
not the quick fix. This is a long game, but it is so worth it because your entire health profile will lift.
Yes, love that. All right. So we getting some thank yous. Wendy says thank you. Barb says thank you so much. You're very,
You're
very
very
welcome,
welcome.
ladies. Shannon, thank you. You're welcome. Love it. Love it. All right. I hope we made it up for last Wednesday and got all your answers answered. I mean, questions answered. And
Yes.
yeah, definitely listen out for. We have a treat for you coming on Friday's episode. It's a new format that I'm trying, something new.
Ooh.
And if you guys like it, then we can do some more of it. So we're doing a roundtable discussion
Ooh, cool.
with like six of us that have LS, and we're going to be talking about resilience and acceptance. We're going to be tackling some
Oh,
mental stuff. And
that's
so,
good.
yeah, what does that mean to you? What do you feel you have resilience and acceptance? If not, what do you think it's going to take for you to get there? And so you're going to get all different type of perspectives, and I can't wait to hear what you think, because if you like it, that's something that I would love to bring more of in the future. So have an amazing rest of your week until I hear from you or see you again. And thank you, Heather, for joining me.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. And thanks for having me twice. It worked out last week.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right,
Awesome.
bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.